Hi. Right, episode on the Marutaka 1/7 Harvard, specifically looking at results of comparing to the plans and what my plans are now for this aircraft. So if you happen to be following this video in the future and you've got yourself a Marutaka-Royal Harvard Texan, you can consider doing some of the mods that I'm going to be speaking about, or the reasoning behind why I'm looking at a number of these changes. Okay, first a couple of points. So I had put the canopy onto this 1/7 fuselage mock-up. Well, it's not really a mock-up. This was intended to be a master, but as it turns out, it was more of a trial master. So this one won't go any further, but it was interesting to learn a lot about the structure up to that point. Anyway, the canopy was not wrongly sized. There's my other piece, which I just put in there, and it does in fact match up, apart from the fact that I measured it against the side view that I created from blueprints. Very, very good. That canopy is perfect. I also happened to do this in the last video where I was measuring against this, which is of course completely wrong. This is the firewall, or at least it's the firewall on the model, so that part is already much narrower. That's intended to be over here, being the model firewall. The aircraft's actual firewall is over there. I won't be using that anyway. This is 4 pieces that you have to laminate together, so that'll just be 4 pieces of plywood for me. I'll be remaking a correct firewall, and it also means that I was actually supposed to be checking against these parts, and that obviously is a much closer match, but you still need to trim off against that line there. So this bottom is not the bottom of the canopy, so that in fact is a good match. So nothing wrong with the canopy all in all. So I will be using the canopy as provided in the kit. These, of course, as I said, will not be using, will be remaking, so the empennage will be restructured to be correct. I measured the plans for this Marutaka against the blueprints, and in general, the fuselage and empennage are very, very close, as in a couple of millimeters off. Very, very usable, so that's a very good sign. They did create this model off accurate 3-view drawings, probably from blueprints, but they didn't create the bulkheads from blueprints. Where it does get a little bit off is right at the rear of the empennage, where you then get towards the rudder hinge line. That looks to be a good 2 centimeters off on the aircraft, too long on the model, which means the rudder is also a bit of a wrong shape, and that's good. I mean, that's an easy area to fix. So what I'm saying is most of the fuselage is correct, and just that very last bit is needing to be tweaked, and I would be remaking the rudder anyway. So there's this sheet of images for the build, and I'll reference a couple of them now. So anyway, there's the rudder and fin, which I expect are not correct and easy enough to remake. I'll be doing those off blueprints. The method that they use here is, I think, somewhat common to a number of aircraft, where they use a sheet center line, center sheet, and then create the ribs to the outside. I won't be doing that. I will be creating a a much better rudder, and I will cover that as I get into it. Wings are good. Wingtips, slight tweaks, so I'll be remaking wingtips from blueprints. The horizontal stabilizer is too thick, as is the fin. Sorry, I should have said that. The rudder and the fin are way too thick. I will be reducing them down to maybe not to pure scale, because the thinness on the aircraft may be, we'll see. I'll decide how we're going on that. So I'll remake that. The wing is probably too thick, but not terrible. Now, someone commented on the video that they do often on some of the models do non-scale things to make it more flyable. One of the common things is thicker wings, thicker tailplane, for structural reasons and for flying reasons. For structural reasons, a thicker, a sort of empennage that doesn't taper as well as it should, but that's not something that'll improve its flying quality. So mine, of course, will be correct. I'll be thinning that down and showing how I do that. The wing thickness, I'm going to go with what the kit has. I'm not going to change much about anything about the wing design except for the undercarriage area and the wheel covers. I have made a list. I've started getting my plans together, and I'll read you a bunch of the stuff that I'm going to be doing. So yes, it'll have retracts. Yes, it'll have flaps. I mean, the kit has flaps, and I will do nice mechanical flaps. And in fact, I've decided to go with the actual aircraft's method of the way the push rods work, just because I feel like it. It will have a full cockpit. The whole plane will be fiberglassed. It already has the good canopy, so I don't need to redo canopy. It has the aluminium cowling, and I'll be doing an electric motor, so I'm not going to be cutting any holes in the cowling. It will have a dummy 1/7 scale 3D printed Pratt & Whitney R1340. So visually, it'll have a very nice looking engine up front. I'm probably going to 3D design and print nice hubs for it. The wheels that they got are these, which are sort of nice, but I can do way better than that. I was pondering removable outer wings rather than having the entire wing removable from the fuselage. There's a couple of reasons for that. That on the real aircraft, I can try and show this here. The wheel covers fairing on that part of the fuselage connects to wing and fuselage. Now, a lot of the model manufacturers, like this one, make a design which sort of just cuts it right through there, and so while your wing is removable, it's a pretty ugly area of the model because that's just not what it looks like on the real aircraft. If I make the outer sections of the wings removable, it makes the aircraft a more manageable, transportable size, and means that I can deal with those fillets and wheel cover into the wing and fuselage in a much nicer way, which I want to do. And the fillet is one of the areas which sort of makes or breaks aircraft. Badly made fillets sort of stand out. So this white which I was doing here wasn't intended to be a scale fillet, I was more like just trying to figure out if I could use that plaster of Paris as a sort of temporary thing to give form there while I design it, and I'm not happy with that at all. So I will be recreating fillets properly with fiberglass. So while I haven't decided fully, I am thinking that removable outer wings is what I'd like to do. That of course presents a couple of its own problems, so I'm still pondering that one. I'm almost more tempted to say I'll put up with any problems that I produce by making removable outer wings, but have the ability to have the center section fixed onto the aircraft and all of the fillets and wheel covers and everything look very, very good. It will have a dowel frame, so full cockpit framework inside. I'll 3D print seats. I would like a scale prop on it. I'm not going to do rivet lines on this aircraft. I'll sort of cut on the amount of time spent to say I won't do rivet lines, but I will do drawn panel lines. Exactly how I do that we'll see. Okay, modifications. I mean more than what I've just mentioned. An actual list of modifications. Let me just see if this one shows the tail wheel. Doesn't really show a specific one. I will just mention while I'm here with the flaps there. So the flaps that I'd like to do, I want to have a proper upper surface to the wing, and when you look into here, see all the ribs, all the formers, and onto the flaps themselves. So the flaps upper and lower surface will be mainly fiberglass pieces, so that when the flaps are down you will have the full visual of scale effect, including even the bulkhead with the holes in them. The rearmost spar of the wing with the holes in them. So correct tail wheel oleo, or I should say it's not oleo, spring function with swivel mechanism, not the way that's given on the kit. Landing lights, nav lights, formation lights, full undercarriage bay detail. The cockpit I've mentioned. The scale intakes, so that'll be out of fiberglass and from blueprints. The fin and the rudder will be made to scale. The empennage I will be reproducing using scale bulkheads. I would like, since I'm going to go to town on the cockpit, I would like to have removable side panels for the aircraft so that you can actually appreciate all of the detail. So that is that piece there. That will be removable. Now to make that removable means that I need good structure inside for longitudinal structural integrity. And we'll see how I deal with that. Scale rudder and vertical stabilizer thickness. Questionable on the horizontal stabilizer thickness. I'll have a look at that when I get to that. Baggage compartment, yes, which is about over here. It's just behind this section, which you now can't see there. So that will be built in with baggage door, since that's really not a difficult area, and lens. Any of these things that I'm talking about is sort of smaller areas which give a very nice detail effect on the model. Undercarriage legs. So while the mechanical retracts look somewhat okay, I think one can improve the look of them with some 3D printed parts to look a little bit more scale than what they do. The undercarriage doors. So these little pieces, while they look nice enough, one can just do a whole lot better than that. But they do contain some interesting curves and undulations on them, so a bit more tricky than what they at first seem. And I don't necessarily need to be fully detailed on them, but I'd like to have a little bit of detail, because that's, that's something which, standing with undercarriage down, is something really, really obvious, and having just the flat pieces is not exactly great. I'll be adjusting so that the rudder hinge line is obviously correct for the blueprints. The fillets, as I've mentioned. The ailerons, okay. So that's possibly another area where they go non-scale. Usually larger ailerons. Now, I don't need this aircraft to be ridiculously aerobatic by any means whatsoever, so conventional scale ailerons and flap size will be done. And then, of course, correct the cutout on the wing for the ailerons so that that's correct. And then there's a bunch of parts that as I'm sort of browsing, which I know will then become obsolete. And these, the ones that are not for the wings, which I think, to be honest, is most of these, are actually fuselage longerons. One of which runs right down the middle there, so I can't have that present if I'm having a proper scale cockpit and even removable side covers. So the structure of the middle of this aircraft will be recreated, and not I can show you what it looks like actually. So those right in the middle there, that's not too bad, because the one that I will use, it's very close to what will be present anyway. That middle one will not be there, that one will not be there. So the whole cockpit section is getting opened, and my frame will provide for the structural integrity that those bulkhead pieces are providing. That area, of course, I've said I will remake completely. So what I'm going to have to do is, not mad about these particular pictures with the black background, but I'll see what I can do to get better images when I do start on the aircraft and do the mods to show in diagrammatic form what I intend. I might do it, no, I can't really do it on the blueprints themselves. Show what I intend, and then the photos of the build eventually. So at the moment, I'm just really getting my head completely around all the aspects that I envision for the model, judging how much time certain things will take, where I'm not quite prepared to put in time. Putting rivets onto the surface looks great, but I'll cut that out for this one. I'd like to do a very nice color scheme. So as I said, it will be fully fiberglass, and then I want to do a nice color scheme. I haven't quite decided which color scheme yet. Nicely weathered. I have got a sound module, which I obtained. A little bit of an expensive item, actually probably cost more than the kit. The sound module, and that's specifically for Harvard. So that is a startup and running sequence for Harvard, which I'm pondering putting into this one. It was originally actually planned for my full fiberglass version, but I'm actually considering putting it into this Marutaka kit then. Please put in any comments and questions that you have. I will be writing up my full set of intended mods and blueprint references, and this can all be put up in a folder on the Facebook page, so anyone that actually decides to, you know, pay it more than a passing glance can actually study the intended changes as they're going along. What is the difference between the Marutaka Harvard and what I'm doing with this full blueprinted 1/7 scale? The difference is that with this Marutaka, I'm looking at the fact that it's close enough. I'm changing the things that are not close enough. So basically everything will be within a couple of millimeters, and in general then I'm accepting what they've done in the kit and I'm going along with that, but adding smaller details. Undercarriage bay, cockpit is a bigger area. Okay, I will grant that. Changing that part of the fuselage for cockpit is the biggest change. You know, building a better fin, a rudder and horizontal stabilizers to not just be the sheet with the little formers on them. I do have, by the way, if you know about Pinkett tape, so I've actually got Pinkett tape for the various scales. I haven't decided to do Pinkett tape on here, but I could. Pinkett is the brand name, but is it called pinking tape? Can't remember now. That actually gives a very nice feel, but it's a little bit more work. We'll see what I do there. Areas like making the intakes, fiberglass versions of the intakes and the tips to scale is a little bit of work, more than what it sounds like initially. It's a lot more work than designing hubs and printing hubs for wheels. This is actually not the most difficult of tasks at all. Designing and planning how to do better undercarriage doors would also be on the more interesting side, because they're not, I don't actually even know. I might have to do a 3D print and then fiberglass the 3D print and then remove the 3D print, something like that, and then do a finishing on it. We'll decide how I'm going on that. So yes, it'll have the electrics for nice lighting. Probably actually do some cockpit lighting while I'm about it. So yeah, large sections of the model will remain the same. A lot of attention to some of the smaller detailed areas, which will give it that nice scale effect, and then a nice paint job. It's not intended to be a quick build. I'm in no rush to have a flying Harvard within a few months. It can be a long-term project, but being a pretty close to scale Harvard makes me happy. That's a good kit to have. Okay, just wanted to bring you up to date on that. Pop your questions in and I will answer them as I can. Happy modeling. Cheers.